Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Today, I am going to work more on my TRS-80 Model 1 monitor. That's right, the TRS-80 Model 1 monitor is the final piece in the puzzle of getting that TRS-80 Model 1 that I had donated to the channel completely working. So if I can get this working today, that means I will have a complete system, disk drive, expansion pack, computer, and monitor. So hopefully, there's a few things that I want to try doing to it and see if that works. But before we get started on anything, I do want to remind everybody that I now have a Patreon account. And if you're interested in a small donation to help support the channel on a monthly basis, then you can check out the link to that in the description. All right, well, the other thing I have to do is thank the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can have PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. PCB printing is only one area PCBWay can help you with your project. Unlock the potential of mass production with PCBWay's injection molding services. Their expertise in mold making and plastic injection molding allows them to produce high-quality, consistent parts at competitive prices. From design to production, they offer complete solutions to meet your manufacturing goals with efficiency and excellence. So why not try PCBWay today by visiting www.pcbway.com and prototype the easy way. Here is the monitor open, looking at the back of it. In the last video, I found two problems that I'm going to attempt to rectify in this video. The first was that on the video board here, the optical isolator chip was dragging the power down for some reason, which means it was probably not working properly. The second was the video cable right here was also dragging the power down. It was coming out at 5 volts at the computer, and by the time it got to the end of the cable here, it was at 4.5 volts. That's a 10% drop, which is way too much, which leads me to think that there's probably some fraying inside of the cable, or maybe some corrosion or something. Anyways, I'll replace this cable. I've got new optical isolator chips on the way, and let's see what we can do. The first thing I'm going to do to remove the cable right here is, as you can see, there's a little back plate right here that needs to be unbolted. So I'm going to do that and see if I can get this cable out. After some struggling, I finally got the cable off. Now, the big problem was that the little rubber grommets that were holding the cable, kind of the tension relief things, I ended up just having to cut them off because they were, I don't know from age or what, but they were on the cable so tightly, and they're actually fused right to the rubber on the outside. So those had to be cut. So something will have to be done to kind of replace those. But yeah, now we can start working on a new cable. Rather than building a new cable as a replacement, I just went and I bought a DIN 5 cable off of Amazon. Now all I have to do is measure it for length, add a couple inches onto it. Now I have a spare cable, short one for doing something else with. This one, I'll just open it up, and then I'm going to tone out the wires in it to see which ones correspond with these 3 wires. And that will then allow me to use this as the replacement cable. All right, I have toned out the wires and I have found that the red wire is now the white wire, the orange wire is now the black wire, and the blue wire is now the red wire. So, I guess I can plug this in and test the voltages on it now. Oh, well, we got power going to it, and it hasn't exploded, so that's a good thing. So let's see. R1 will, here, I'll switch this around so we can see it. R1 will be my ground point, and pin 2 should be 5 volts. Huh, we're still getting 4.5 volts there. That is very weird. It should be 5 volts and we're getting 4.5. So maybe there wasn't anything wrong with that cable. Well, I'm going to try plugging the chip into it. Plug it into the TV and see what happens. All right, here we go to see if this works or not. Oh, I guess I had the power on. Oh, it doesn't look like it's working. Okay, that's not working. So on the plus side, you remember when I was in the last video, there was something dragging everything down to 4.5 volts. But then at the chip, with the chip in, it was also dragging it down a little bit more. Well, now, with the chip in, it's still at about 4.5 volts. So that is leading me to believe that possibly there's something inside of the main computer that is just not sending a strong enough signal for the 5 volts through the cable there. Like it's 5 volts without the cable plugged in, but as soon as you put the additional load on it, it just drops it, which shouldn't be happening, so it's got to be on the computer side of things. So time to open up the computer again and take a look. So what I've done is in the main computer, I have upped the 5 volt rail to about 5.2 volts, which is about as high as I possibly want to go. And we're going to see if it'll bring the 5 volts coming in here up. Now, this is just a temporary solution because obviously there's something in the computer that when it's getting a load put on it, like just the wire coming into the monitor here, it's causing about a 0.5 volt drain. So that is not exactly ideal. So here we go. We should have a slightly higher voltage coming into pin 2 here. Yes, much better, 4.86. So that means this is about where we would want it. About 4.8 would be about the lowest that we would want it. So it is proper. So now we can turn this on and test out to see if upping the voltage has helped. So let's see what we get. Oh, we are much, much closer here. Okay, we got a bunch of dots along the top there. Just a second here. Let me just see. Okay, so what it looks like is it's dividing the screen up into a bunch of little strips and squishing it. But I'm definitely getting a picture now, so this is getting closer. All right, we've moved forward to there actually being something showing up on the screen. Just doesn't seem to be decoding the signal properly, or it's not displaying the signal properly. So I haven't really touched this half of the board here, so maybe I can start looking at the components on there. Otherwise, it's going to be somewhere on here, and I'm not sure if I'd be able to fix that. So let's start with these components on this side. And here we go with the first capacitor that I pulled off of the other half of this board, and it is a 10 microfarad capacitor. And it is showing 18.78, so it's not good. After testing both capacitors off of this side of the board, I did find that they were both way out, like 75% over what their stated value should be. So I replaced them, and since I was there, I also replaced the transistors. So now it's time to plug this into the monitor, and let's see if that's made any difference. All right, here we go. Power on. Picture tube is warmed up. Oops, I don't think I have the computer plugged in right now. Nope. Well, that's not going to work very well. Now power on. And looks like we're getting the same thing. I know from the previous video that the optic isolator chip that I had in there was bad, because while it was in the board, it was putting a pretty big voltage drain on the circuit. The voltage was dropping by over half a volt, which that's 10%, so that's not good. Now that I've got the newer optic isolator chip in there, there's no voltage drain, which leads me to believe this chip is working. But I've been doing something else. When I bought it, I actually bought a little sleeve of them. So I've got 5 chips here. I've gone through and I've actually tested all of them, and I'm getting exactly the same result every time. So that means either A, these optic isolator chips are working, or B, they're all failing in exactly the same way, which I find that to be the less likely. Just a reminder of what the signal looks like coming directly out of the computer. Here we go. Now let's take a look at what it looks like coming onto the board here. So it looks like the proper signal is coming into this board, so that is not a problem. All right, we're getting a little bit closer. I think that daughter board is working now. We're now getting an actual image on the screen. It may be a bunch of stripes of an image where the text is so squished up and little that you can't read it. But yeah, it's getting closer. Now, when I'm repairing computers, I generally have kind of an idea of what might be causing something, so that I know the general area to start looking. I mean, that doesn't always help, but I definitely usually have a starting point. But with this, I don't have any of that knowledge with CRTs, so I am not sure where to start. My best guess is because that daughter board, all the capacitors on it were bad, probably in this TV, the capacitors are also bad. That means I'm going to have to disassemble this and get the main board out of there and start replacing capacitors. But there are a lot of values of capacitors in there that I don't have, so I'm going to have to go out and buy those, and so that's going to be in a future video. And if you have a better suggestion of what might be causing that, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. But I guess that is the end of the video, so I have to thank my Patreons, whose names are going up the screen. And I also have to say, don't forget that a like, a subscribe, a comment below are all things that do really, really help the channel out a lot and are greatly appreciated. But until the next time, I guess I will see you later.